Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
To be close. Shorter period of time.
I'm not on the finance committee, sorry.
Leslie is.
Yeah, Leslie.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m. I'd like to call to order the King County Finance and Budget Committee meeting of Wednesday, July 26, 2023. We have roll call, please.
Juby,
Ruby here.
Lewis, Sanchez.
Fine.
Surges. Tepe,
Deppie here.
Leonard,
Leonard here.
Berman,
Berman here.
Huron.
Here.
You have an in-person quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any remote attendance requests? None? Next is our approval of minutes from the June 28, 2023 meeting.
Mr. Chair, I ask for unanimous consent to approve the minutes.
Anyone against that? So be it. Public comments on agenda items. I have a number that are wish to speak. First is Susan Sanders. No,
Turn it on. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for your time on this board. Many of us appreciate all the work you do. I'm here to support upgrading the voting system. After listening to Hart InterCivics last week and just have voted here since 1984, I think the system has worked well. The older machines need to be updated, so tech support is available. At the meeting last week with the Hart InterCivics rep, as well as IT from the county, it makes sense to move forward with the new machines. The machines are old, just like our phones get, and we have to update those. The machines have touch screens, a copied hard copy. A voter can review the choices they made and can edit it. And it is ADA approved. Last week, I heard a person speak on paper ballots and shorter voting windows, like 5 days. My Republican friend, who is a small business owner, said to me when I told her this proposal, she would not have the ability to vote if it was that small of a window. So hopefully we can move forward, keep voting by mail, and we can move forward with this issue and put a rest to it. Thank you.
thank you. Next is Ellen Young.
Good morning. My name is Ellen Young. I want to thank you for your service. I've been a resident of King County for 44 years. I'm also a certified election judge, and I'm here to tell you that I think it's incredibly urgent that we update the machines. Before my rigorous training and testing to be certified, I did not know how complex and how careful and protected the process of voting is in King County. And I am in awe of the dedication of the people who run the program. And I have seen firsthand how everything is closed up with zip ties until the machines are opened at the polling place under supervision. They are then relocked up and carried by a Democratic judge and a Republican judge to a secure facility after polling. And we have hard copy printouts and multiple checks and balances. So I'm very pleased with the current system. However, you may know that the machines are basically held together with bubble gum and spit, that they are cannibalizing the old machines for parts to try and keep the machines going, that in both the November and April election, we had to have people come out to try to reboot machines that weren't working well. And our machines are really outdated and in need of updating. This is the ideal time because this is the longest period between elections we'll have for a number of years. And I can tell you, having been through the training myself, it's very time consuming, not only for the judges being trained, but for the trainers. And every single election judge in King County will need to be retrained if we get new machines. So we need a longer window than we normally have between elections. And we have that window now. We have machines that are falling apart now. And I strongly urge this committee to go ahead and move forward with new machines that will continue to protect our knowing that the votes are cared for properly. I also, as someone who's already dealing with mobility issues, am really excited if they're more ADA compliant. If you've ever spent time at a polling place and seen how challenging it is for some of our voters, and they are assisted by someone who writes an affidavit or both a Democratic and a Republican judge, it's harder than it ought to be for our aging population. And that's just one more reason why this new proposal is urgently needed to be approved. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And next is Patricia Lackman.
Hello, Chairman Berman and Finance Committee members. I'd like to thank you all for what you do for the residents of Kane County. I'm speaking about Agenda Item 9 under New Business Resolution M, authorizing an agreement with Hart InterCivic for the upgrade of the Kane County voting system, hardware, software, and related services, and corresponding budget adjustment. Ooh, that's a mouthful. My name is Patty Lackman. I live in Batavia. I'm second vice president and longtime voter service chair of the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. As many of you know, the League of Women Voters was formed 103 years ago in Chicago at the time of the passage of the 19th Amendment. We are a nonpartisan organization. For over a century, our main goal is to register citizens to vote, to educate voters, and to provide accurate information about issues and candidates. For years, we have worked closely with the Kane County Clerk's Office to provide voter registrar training, to educate ourselves on the current voting system, and to assure that the county has election security and integrity. We have a great deal of confidence in the officials and the voting system of the Kane County Clerk's Office. We know that upgrading their system maintains its integrity. Kane County Clerk Cunningham has shown Kane County residents fiscal prudence and careful oversight of funds needed to keep our election machines working well and to ensure that the election process is secure. The League of Women Voters of the United States and the League of Women Voters of Illinois have formulated position statements on many issues of nonpartisan consensus study. From the Illinois League, our Where We Stand document, in one of our election pillars, it's voting rights and election processes. The pillar stands excuse me. The pillar stands to ensure that our league members will work to protect voting by mail, voter access, voter registration, and election security, and to standardize best practices and processes across election authorities. The League of Women Voters of Central Kane County plans to continue working with the Kane County Clerk's Office as we have done in the past. We believe in the integrity of the system, and we are convinced that the new voting machines will continue to ensure that integrity. Thank you again.
Thank you. Next is Leona Steele.
We have two short people in a row, so we don't have to adjust. Good morning, Chairman Berman and Finance Committee members. Your time, attention, and service to those of us who live in Kane County is invaluable, and so we thank you a lot. I'm also talking about item 9, Resolution M, about the Hart InterCivic voting machines. I'm Lona Steele, First Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. As Patty said, the League has a long history of being nonpartisan and being in support of election security and integrity. Our members serve as voter registrars, as poll watchers, as poll judges. We found the county clerk officials and employees to be knowledgeable, willing to encourage questions, and to streamline a secure voting process. The evidence that we are speaking about upgrading the 18-year-old system speaks to the fiscal conservatism of the county clerk's office. Patty mentioned the Where We Stand, published by the League of Women Voters of Illinois, with consensus statements affirmed by member studies on issues. Under the election systems criteria issue, it is stated that an election system should be resistant to outright fraud and forms of political manipulation. The new system has features to address this criteria. It states that it should also be easy to use and to administer. Citizens should be able to cast their votes with ease and understand the election results without difficulty. I believe that the touchscreens and the paper summaries of the individual's votes are positive steps to meeting this criteria. Consideration should be given to the administrative costs of conducting elections, is also stated. That means keeping a system going for 18 years, way beyond an expected lifetime, and being fiscally responsible about costs for upgrading the system meets this criteria. Again, thank you all for your time and attention. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Next is Ruth Kuzmanik.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ruth Kosmanik. I'm a resident of Kane County and have been for all my adult life. I don't have prepared remarks. I'm just going to say, please do this. 2003, come on. They're breaking. They're having difficulty keeping them together. When machines go down, the lines get longer. And I can speak for my 30-somethings now. They show up at those lines and they say, Mom, I'm not waiting. I say, it is your civic duty to vote. You go vote or I am not going to make your birthday dinner. And they're like, no, it's a 30-minute line. None of us want to spend that time. Look at the devices that you have in front of you. You don't have one from 2003. It wouldn't do what you want to do. It is absurd that we're even having this discussion, spending your time, spending our time to say, do the right thing. Of course, nobody wants to spend more money. I hate it when I got to buy that iPhone, that new one, you know, I mean, they're like $1,000. We're getting what, almost 25% through a grant. Let's use it. And finally, I want to go on record again. Mr. Cunningham deserves our support. He's making the right decision. The IT guy that said over there last week basically said, I can't do this anymore. My staff is stressed. Please do the right thing. Vote for Resolution M and get the new machines.
Thank you. Next is Mary Ann Nugent.
Again, thank you all for serving. We really do appreciate. My name is Mary Ann. I've been a resident of Kane County for 37 years. I am not a member of any Democratic organizations. I am not a member of any Republican organizations. I am not a member of the groups that are anti-government. They're coming to take our jobs and our guns groups. I am just a concerned citizen. I am not going to be the loudest voice in the room, but that doesn't mean my voice doesn't count. I'm quite sure that I represent many voices who could not attend today. Let's break this voting machine issue down to its simplest form. The current voting machines started being used around 2006. It is no wonder that an update is in order. How many of us are still driving 2006 vehicles? How many of us are still using the Motorola Razr flip phone? The iPhone wasn't released until 2007, and that company has updated its product at least 14 times since then. When something breaks, you try to fix it. When you can't fix it, you use duct tape. When that doesn't work, you get a new one. At a previous board meeting, we heard from the Hart InterCivic presenter and from a member of our own county clerk's office that the parts to fix these machines are no longer being manufactured. Therefore, these machines can't be fixed anymore. Therefore, the logical step is to get new ones. I and many other quiet voices fully support the purchase of new voting machines for Kane County.
Thank you. Next, we have Steve Briswitz.
I too would like to thank the board for this opportunity to get my 2 cents worth in. Very much appreciate that. I'm a big fan of democracy. This is part of it. Another part is voting and making it easier to vote. And I'd like to reiterate what everybody else says is if you had a 2006 computer, it's better for a boat anchor than as a computer. It's time to upgrade. That being said, since 2006, there have been no complaints of actual fraud involving the machines we use from Hart Center Civic. I don't see any reason there would be going forward. The clerk's office already has a relationship with them, so that seems it would be a savings for us as far as the staff won't have to go through so much of a learning curve because they've already worked with these people. And it's also this machine, because it's touch screen and people use touch screens. They don't use the little spinny wheel thing. I've noticed at voting places when I'm there, that's often a problem for people because it's not intuitive to use because there's not a lot of other machines that use that little dial to make your choices, but there are a lot of machines that use touch screens. I think this is an upgrade, and Hart Center Civic's been a good company to work for. We've had a good record in our voting systems, and I think we should go ahead with the new machines. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next is Ed Marth.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to say a few words. I also support the what you previously heard, the voting machine upgrade needs to be done. I'm here to speak about item number R, the proposal to adopt responsible bidder ordinances. Few would argue with the maxim that something needs to be done, should be done once and done right. We have all read of consequences of shoddy work done by contractors who cut corners and with poorly trained workers. And when the building or bridge collapses years later, the company is nowhere to be found. If privatization was the answer to big or complicated problems, we would see companies like Electric Boat Division of General Dynamics in Connecticut building submarines without all the Navy inspectors who make sure that welding is done right. And the electronics, they are what they should be. We saw, however, a couple of years ago, one of the biggest and most important companies in the United States, Boeing, convinced government regulators that builders of large aircraft were the ones to do their own inspections. That was and remains a calamity for the aircraft investors and rippling through the economy, with Boeing losing huge contracts today to France's Airbus. What, you ask, does this have to do with us? In different work, different by scale, but not in purpose, of ensuring that public work is done right by qualified people, the end goals are the same. While this is not poetic, the poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote that it takes less time to do the right thing than it does to explain why you did it wrong. Well, he was a fine poet, and you hear the same refrain from a chorus of people who prefer not doing nothing to making things better. Things need to get done, sometimes big things. That is why you are here, and I am here to encourage doing what ought to be done, rather than have deferred maintenance or shabby projects be the guideposts for the future of Kane County. Guideposts are not hitching posts. The proposed guidelines are direct and understandable. If followed when adopted, will ensure standards of work results that will not be subjected to the criticism of naysayers in the future about what should have been done by people no longer here to pay for doing it right the second time. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak on an agenda item? All right, moving on. Item 6, Treasurer's Report, Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Just on a lighter note, yesterday, my wife Sarah and I celebrated our 42nd wedding anniversary. So it was very nice. The Treasurer's monthly report was submitted 7 days ago. There are going to be 3 areas this morning that I'll cover. But before I go into those details, our people always come first. And I'd like to introduce a new member of our team. If Connie Kane would stand up. We're kidding Connie as a new member of our team. There's going to be a TV series that's going to be Connie Kane CPA. So, I believe that our constituents want stable, honest competence, and Connie represents all three. She is a military, 8-year Army Reserves veteran. She is a certified public accountant, so a CPA in Illinois. She has 20 years of JP Morgan Chase Card Services experience and 3 years with the state of Illinois in the IDES. She's married to Richard for 30 years, a mother of son Ethan, 26 years old. So Connie, thank you very much for joining us. So this morning I have good news, fair news, and good news. First of all, in the interest income area, Blair, would you mind putting up that first slide? Okay, what this slide shows is basically the interest income by month so far this year. What was projected in the budget process last year was 1.788, so call it $1.8 million. That's the yellow line and below. Some of you know that I promised King County residents that we'd produce in the treasurer's office $2 million more, or basically double it to 3.788 or 4 million. That's the red line and below. The actual performance so far is approximately $1 million a month. So we're so pleased that rather than 2 million, we're not going to double it, we're not going to triple it, not quadruple it. I would say that by the end of the year, it'll be 5 times the projection, or approximately $10 million. In the area of fair news, the interest income for the longer term portion of the portfolio, or our reserves, that's in good hands now. That's going smoothly. Blair, if you put up the next slide. I think that the value of routine monthly reports was demonstrated again in that in June, it was a heavy collection month. I believe that I left too much money in one of our checking accounts rather than transferring it. The bank didn't advise us, but I know that it's my ultimate responsibility. Rather than in the checking account, we transfer it to the money market. What we lose, the bank gains. I expect a more solid partnership with the people who serve Kane County. So the bank gained the use of that money at 4.35% rather than 35 basis points. So the next step is going to be more in the area of working capital, cash management. We need to automate, need to have a systematic review of what's in those accounts at the end. And it's basically 1 or 2 checking accounts that just have to be cleared out, especially in the heavy property tax collection months. So it's the blue line that I'm referring to that is on demand. And what happened on June 30th, that had more money in it than it should, drag the whole index down. We'll correct that going into the future. Whether I need to do a request for proposal for that banking relationship, I think that that's one of the next things on our agenda, and we'll report back. So,
Mr. Lawson, question. When Kathy was here last night at the COW speaking, and in your report now, it seems like we have these tranches of money that come in June for the property tax, September for the property tax, a couple of things from the state. Could we just get a very simple report that says this is when those bubbles occur? This is when this comes in, this is when that comes in, typically. Just to kind of, you say this stuff and sometimes it's so far over our head that it takes a minute to just, wait, what did he say? And if we knew when those deposits typically hit, it would be much easier, at least for me, to keep up with you.
That is a very good observation, a very important piece, the forecasting. I've come to this committee before. I've asked just to, the reality of what we're producing now as the Treasury team on the investments. I think that in the forecasting of our financial statements each month, we ought to have a budget adjustment, but I didn't bring that to the table today. The idea you're talking about is forecasting, trying to establish the patterns. That is the next step. That's fundamental to working capital management, is to forecast just like you do in your businesses. Other people who have served on this board do in their businesses. It is one of the things that we're working on.
And Mr.
Not
Treasurer,
easy, not
I do
easy.
apologize because I don't know, I get confused sometimes whether I'm asking that of finance or of the Treasury. So if I'm crisscrossing those, I apologize, but in the spirit,
We're all working on the same good results for our constituents. So, and it's an excellent point. The forecasting is important.
Madam Chair.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Mr. Treasurer, thank you for the good news about the interest. My question is, have we delineated or removed the base interest of the county's money versus the American Rescue Plan money? Has that, I've heard that it's been intermingled, but do we have an idea of what that is so we can get that baseline? Because we had the COVID money that came through, which was invested before it was spent out. And now we have this ARPA money that'll be developed and spent over the next couple of years. Have you been able to figure out what our baseline is for our interest and versus the infusion of federal money?
The chairman of the committee, Mr. Berman, has asked that within actually the last 30 minutes. And it is in the area of the finance department. However, naturally, anything that has to do with investment of our money, I'm very interested and concerned about. I've taken a look at some preliminary information of the accounting for the ARPA and COVID money that is, invested in total with other county funds. And I think that the thought there was so that it would earn more money over the 2-3 years that were affected. So I have preliminary information to generate those numbers. I've committed to the chairman, again, just a few moments ago, that by August 10th, I'll have analysis that I put at the disposal of the finance committee and also the finance department.
Thank you so much. We've been wanting those
It's
numbers for a while now, and we'll
important.
all appreciate receiving them.
Mr. Tepe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Lausen, I'm sure that you would not want to have any image of impropriety from your office. Do you agree?
Certainly.
Okay. Well, I'd like to speak about the process of approving new vendors. In the past few months, you've lost 3 people from your office, and 2 of them were the main people associated with approving new vendors. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And because of that, the vendor process for approving new vendors now takes a couple of weeks on occasion.
That's incorrect.
Okay. Do you think it's proper for the office that pays vendors to approve and verify that those vendors are proper?
Oh, Mr. Tepe, this is the first I've had anyone from the board or the public or any member, any employee of the county ask any of the questions of that nature. I don't know how deeply you want to go into the history of when the vendor security function was in another area of the county governance. It was switched over into the Treasury Department to protect the security. I believe it was approximately 3-4 years ago. So I don't know the series of questions you're leading me to. I do know that the auditor has decided that she wants to do an audit of that area. In one case, we had an employee who was working in the office 1 day a week and then from home 4 days a week. And we need our people in the office. The other person was hired away. His last day is today. We have the replacement has been training with him now for Monday, Tuesday, and the rest of today. So I don't know the series of questions, but I'd be happy to talk and discuss and show procedures. That idea that there is any delay in approving vendors, that's just not an accurate statement.
Well, would you be surprised to find out that we were the only county in the state that has the treasurer's office performing the function of adding and verifying new vendors?
I don't know where that statistic comes from. I think that to come to a meeting with surprise kind of questions, not healthy and constructive.
Well, then let me
Let me respond to the essence of your question. The reason it was transferred to the treasurer's office is because a huge error was made in paying a vendor who should not have been paid. It was a big amount of money. About 7 days later, when it was discovered, oh my gosh, we've paid a vendor where it's basically fraud. People blanched, and we were so fortunate to chase it down and correct it. So when I was a little kid, parents used to say, if everybody else jumps off the bridge, Chris, are you going to jump off the bridge? The idea of separating those responsibility and duties, I think, is a sound financial move. And I didn't expect at this meeting that we'd be going into that detail, but I'd be happy to, already the auditor has decided that they're going to do an audit in that area. We have already supplied all the written policies and procedures. We met with one of the people in that department the other day to answer questions. It went very smoothly. And until this moment, Mr. Tepe, I had no idea that there was any concern from anyone. But now I understand that you're very concerned in this area. I'd welcome you to visit the office at any time.
Well, these are the kinds of things that I think should be public, and the information I have about the transaction that you're talking about is very different. But let me switch. I've asked the past few months, I've asked why the April fund investment report was totally different from all previous reports. It would appear to me that if your office is going to decide to change the reports, it would be appropriate to explain it to the committee. The April fund report looks like nothing ever before.
As I said at the last meeting, when you asked essentially that same question, in the first letter that I wrote, in the first report that I submitted to the committee back for the December report, I said that we are going to be taking a look at the statistics as they're being presented. You know that I ran for this office because I thought that not an adequate job was being done. I don't know if you are defending the idea that we bought 62 transactions of tax-free municipal bonds for an organization that does not pay taxes. That cost about 1.5% or about $400,000 of interest loss. So what came before, I'm not so concerned about, unless you want to argue about how wonderful that was. You are making a lot less interest. What we're doing now is trying to work together in a constructive way to serve people. I think that that's been the spirit of this, the majority of this committee. It's certainly the advice that the chairman and vice chairman have given me, and that's what we'll maintain.
Mr. Lausen, you're doing an excellent job of not answering my question. Okay, so again, this is not the first month that I've asked that question as to why the April fund investment report was completely different. Okay, again, going on, now your May and June fund investment reports are now again completely different. So all the reports prior to April were in a very consistent format. April looked like it was just thrown together, and May and June fund reports are now again completely different. I think it would be appropriate if you were going to make changes to your reports that you explain why and put that before the committee. It's very important. You're dealing with a lot of money, okay? And you're dealing with a lot of details. And changing your reports is something that should be explained in my mind.
Mr. Tepe, they have been explained. I explained them in writing. And if I'll read it. I have had the same paragraph in, now this is this would be the eighth monthly report. As you have already seen, we are making adjustments to improve the format of these reports for eventual, easier, more understandable consumption of the financial information. I hope that you are not defending what came before, because when a ordinary citizen with some experience in finance at the state and county level has to come back to establish better performance, that is just not defensible. When you say that the reports are changing, first of all, that they're totally different, that is just, let me say that that's just political posturing. And if your concern were really that we want to earn more interest, you would have picked up the phone, given me a call. You are always welcome in my office. In fact, you and I went to a lunch before I got started. And so at least from my end, the door is open for constructive communication.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Tepe, your interest in the report is one thing. Are you questioning the information that's in the report, or just the
One more point, Mr. Chair, and that is on all of the reports through March. Again, this is part of the problem of changing reports and not doing things. But on all of the reports through March, the CARES and ARPA balances were included. Okay, now after March, they're no longer there. So these are the kinds of details that I think should be explained to the committee. If these funds have been commingled, if they're no longer kept separate, that's fine. But to change the reports and no longer have them, and to really, in my opinion, not answer my questions is to me disturbing.
Once again, that is a totally inaccurate statement. The ARPA and COVID money, even as Madam Chairman observed, commingled, and they are reported in these reports. So, Mr. Tepe, it would be so much more constructive for you to pick up the phone and have these conversations where you could be satisfied with actually seeing with your own eyes where it is in the accounting, as opposed to political posturing. And I don't know if this gives you a charge or not, but it's not constructive. This kind of posturing we can always do during campaign time.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we've discussed the subject enough at this point in time. Do you have any other?
Thank you.
any
No,
other
thank you.
report? Thank you very much for your report, Mr. Lawson. Item 7, Finance Director's Report, Ms. Hopkinson.
Mr.
Deputy.
Berman, before we leave, being the biggest cheerleader at the North End, Chris, did you tell us where your new employee, staff person hails from?
Yes, North End.
Roberts, yes. Put it up there.
May I, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, can we leave the discussion of the treasurer's report for this month on the high note and the essential note of $1.8 million was projected, 3.8 million was promised, and now about $1 million a month is being delivered through the performance of the Treasury Department and its team.
Thank you. Thank you. Kathy.
Hello, good morning. Today's finance report, we're going to talk about the budget process, where the audit is, and some things that we're doing in the office. In terms of financial highlights, I'll point your attention to the typical chart on sales taxes, local use, RTA. Some things to point out: the state income tax amount should be going up. As we talked about at the cow yesterday, the local government distributive fund percentage of income tax will increase on August 1st, 2023. So we should look for that amount to go up. Also, I believe there's been with the personal property replacement tax, some concern with the amount that has been distributed in the past year to the local governments, and I need to follow up on that. But that may change the projections for this year. Where's my little clicker? Next slide, please. Also, the purchasing report is in your packet. Next slide. Again, wanted to show some highlights of our primary taxes on a line graph for the last several years. And as you can see, the state income tax percent, or the state sales tax rather, percent of our taxes has gone up the most, obviously due to inflation and the price of goods. The local use tax has also gone up. The personal property replacement tax went up in a big percent last year, but as I said, we are looking into that. It is my understanding that perhaps the state overpaid on the PPRT, so we're looking into that to see if that's going to be corrected this year. Next slide. This is a graph that we presented last night at the cow as well. This is the personnel services, salaries, and benefits of all funds. So all benefits are included in this. And as you can see, this is budget to actual. As you can see over the years, that the actual expenses, particularly in some of the more recent years, are much lower. And obviously 2023, we're not finished with 2023 yet. The last few years, it's going to be difficult, I think, for a period of time to look at the COVID years because they're kind of an anomaly. A lot of things happened, a lot of disruption. We're looking at trying to redo this presentation by stripping out perhaps some of anything that was particular to COVID that may skew this presentation. But as I talked about yesterday, this is one of the reasons when you look at information like this is one of the reasons why we're digging deep as part of the budget process this year and looking at vacant positions. Next slide. And this is the same information, but just for the general fund only. And again, just a caution that we're not done with 2023 yet. Okay, next slide. All right, so with that, wanted to talk in general about the budget process and the responsibilities of the Finance Committee and the board upcoming in the next few months. So we held our budget kickoff last Thursday for the non-elected offices. We'll be holding the budget kickoff for the elected offices tomorrow. We're asking the departments, we're giving them a pretty short time frame to get the budget information back to us in about 2.5 weeks. That may seem like a very short time frame, but we are in finance doing some things to assist the departments that they have not had to do or that they have had to do by themselves in the past. We're loading all the personnel information. We're loading all the benefit information. So that should be a huge time saver. And in particular, most county departments and offices are personnel driven. So with that time savings, it should be pretty, we should be able to accomplish getting the departments to get their budgets loaded in the next 3 weeks. After that process, the finance department is going to be meeting one-on-one with each department and elected office, going over their budget. That will be occurring throughout the month of August. Then after that, what we project is what will need to happen in order to meet the shorter timeframes that we have this year for the budget process is that we're going to be asking the departments and the elected office holders to present their budgets to their home committees, to their parent committees. In order to get that all done for the September Finance Committee, those departments may have to have a special meeting with their home committee if it doesn't fall in the calendar. We're going to take a closer look at that so that we can have a draft budget for the September Finance Committee. It's a lot to do in the next 2 months, but we've been working very hard to get that done. One thing also wanted to talk about that and it's in the new budget policy that was approved by the county board. This committee, and then it will be taken onto the county board, will need to be making a decision. We expect to have that at the next finance committee of whether to use the CPI or PTEL for the budget. So please take that into consideration for the next finance committee meeting at the end of August. Also wanted to give you some information on the audit process. The audit process, with all the changes, is behind schedule. We are working to get that done by the end of August. It is delayed. We have notified the state audits typically, well, they're due within 6 months after the end of the fiscal year. But we have notified the states, they're aware. We still believe that we can achieve our GFOA Certificate of Achievement Award, even though it's delayed. Some good things that we're doing operationally in the department. And this is this may seem like a small thing, but it's a big thing. We're going to be automating an aspect of processing personnel transactions in the payroll department that affects how all departments work. And it should eliminate triplicate forms. If you can imagine, we're still passing around forms in triplicate all over the county. And we have a module that we already own in our accounting software, and we're looking to roll that out in the next couple of months. And there's some other features of our accounting software that we're looking at that we already own, that we can look to use and automate some things that we're doing. So any questions?
Very good. Yes, Mr. Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Hopkinson, question about the budget process and when you have the meetings with the different departments and elected officials, are they given parameters on what they can request?
So a change in the budget process for this year as compared to prior years, we are asking all the departments and elected offices to first take their 2023 budget and propose a budget with their total 2023 dollar amount and show that separately. Any requests above that amount, and they can move within lines, so they can change from contractual services to commodities, but they have to stay within their 2023 budget. And then the second round is when they will submit what we're calling supplemental requests or our second review. If they have a new program or some sort of expected increase. And when that information is presented in that format to their home committees, it'll be more transparent for the home committees to see the differences between last year's budget and what they're requesting that's new and different from the prior year's budget. And we're hoping that going through the budget this way will make up for the lost time. that we've lost over the last couple of months. Because we're basically starting with the 2023 budget amount.
Thank you.
Any other questions of, yes, Surges?
Kathy, I had sent, and again, I had sent a couple of emails out based on some requests that I had. Is the CAFR and the audit two different things?
So you wanna.
No, you're on it. That's okay, good.
No, so so it used to be called the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report,
Okay,
CAFR. Those of us who've been around many years, CAFR is something that we've said for years. They changed the acronym about 2 years ago. They switched around the first two words to annual comprehensive instead of comprehensive annual. Very interesting. The saying the word CAFR was determined to be a derogatory slang term in other countries. And so they changed the name of the report to ACFR 2 years ago, but it's the same report. It's the same report. And again, those of us who've been saying it the one way for years are always catching ourselves. Governments are only required to have what's called general purpose financial statements, which is just your financial statements and your footnotes. That is all that is required. If you want to receive awards from the GFOA, the Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting, that is when you add additional information to the report. You add a statistical section in the back of the report, and you add what's called management and discussion and analysis section, which is a big narrative analysis in the front. And those three pieces, the management discussion analysis, the general purpose financial statements, and the statistical section, those three together make up the ACFR. And then you can submit, but there are many governments across the state that only do the general purpose financial statements.
and that is, again, the original question, are the audit and are these two separate beasts or are they one?
Well, the audit is having an audit firm come and audit the financial statements.
Okay.
Right.
And again, you have my apology because I may have sent that same request to Corinne, Dale, Chris, you, and I just a little confused on that. Also, I just wanted to make sure that coming out of last night's cow, on the graph that showed the spread, if we could take and remove, the COVID portion of that to help understand that better,
Yeah.
that would work with me.
It's going to have to be done because it does really skew if you're trying to get good trend information.
Yeah, it's just too, it's just, and then finally, the same question I had for Chris goes to you. In the reports where you're showing the revenues coming in, do those trickle in on a monthly basis or are those, hey, the state's money comes in on such and such date and done?
So the state income tax, the sales tax, the RTA tax, it's all coming in monthly.
Oh, it does, okay.
Yeah, and there's a whole schedule. It's typically what we received today was collected 2 months ago.
Okay.
There's a whole process has to be collected, then remitted to the state, then the state has to distribute it, which is one of the things that I always found fascinating was looking at the sales tax information because it looks like a heartbeat. It goes up, the receipts here at the county go up in February, which kind of ties back to December for Christmas. And we're getting it 2 months later, it goes up and then it comes back down and then, yeah.
And finally here, Dale, I am not trying to get to a granular level as a board member. That is not our responsibility, but if somebody has a question, I should be able to just answer it. And I don't know those, the answers to those questions. So
We're not going to give you a CPA.
yeah, I know.
We're not going to give you a CPA.
Thank you very much.
We can certainly, provide a graph of all of these sorts of tax revenue on a month by month basis. So you can see how it comes in throughout the year.
Just conversationally, it'd be great to understand that. And I do not understand it. So thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Ken.
I'm sorry, can I do one more? Just real quick. Doherty, you mentioned this ACFR requires an additional amount of work from your department to put it together a larger report than what's required. Is that a costly event? Are we spending a ton of money to get an award?
I would say it's incremental. The statistical section in the back of the report is about 10 different schedules with 10-year histories of information and adding that additional year. And a lot of it is actually interesting and helpful trend information for understanding how this government operates, exactly some of the information that we're just talking about. And then the transmittal letter and the MD&A up front provide an overview. And it's I would say to not have the ACFR for Kane County would not be something that I would recommend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, as long as it's something that's necessary and valuable, you know, it's just, you know, if we're spending a ton of money for an award.
Yeah, I mean, some of the delays for this year's audit, beside just, you know, the loss of staff, the allocating the ARPA funds to specific programs and getting that recorded, it's a little time consuming, to be honest. And it's, you know, it's a one-time set of funds that's coming through, and it's a lot of money. And so there's a lot of eyes need to look at how those funds are being allocated. So it just was taking a little longer.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
There are people that use that information though, are there not?
Oh, yeah. Bond rating agencies will look at that information, especially when you're issuing debt. They're going to look at, because a lot of the statistical schedules in the back of the report have to show your legal debt margin, what kind of debt you've issued over the last 10 years. So yeah, bond rating agencies will definitely take a look at that.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other questions, comments? Next is our auditor's report, Ms. Wegman.
Good morning. My report is on file and I can answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Tepe?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to just kind of inform you that one of the things that's happening, and Ms. Wegman and I are both associated with it, is we're looking at changing P card vendors. And that comes under the, you know, the venue of this particular committee. Two key things that the people on the committee are looking for are one, improved control, which is a major part of what Ms. Wegman wants, okay, as well as the other people involved. And second is an improvement in the rebate funds associated with it. So just wanted to let you know that that was happening.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Wegman? Moving on. Item B is a resolution approving the June 2023 claims paid of $11,725,781.08. Do we have a motion to approve that? Burgess moves.
Lewis will second.
Lewis second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby? Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Burgess? Tepe?
Tepe, yes.
Leonard?
Leonard, yes.
Berman?
Berman, yes. Thank you. Moving on to new business. Item A is a resolution authorizing the budget notation for approved ARPA awards amounts, RES 23-272 for Veteran Service Organizations Grant Program, $26,727.
Leonard moves.
Leonard moves.
Lewis second.
Lewis second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby?
Trivia, aye.
Lewis?
Lewis, yes.
Surges? Tepe?
Tepe, yes.
Leonard?
Leonard, yes.
Berman?
Berman, yes. Thank you. Item B is a resolution authorizing a budget adjustment for sustainability management salary for the Department of Environmental and Water Resources. This is from the Energy and Environment Committee of $13,900. Do we have a motion?
Debbie moves.
Debbie moves.
Lewis second.
Lewis second, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Ruby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges. Tepi,
Debbie, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Item C is a resolution authorizing a budget adjustment for the King County State's Attorney's Office Weed and Seed Program. This is from the Judicial Public Safety Committee of $14,535. So just move.
Leonard second.
Under second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Ruby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges. Tepi,
Debbie, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. And item D is a resolution authorizing fiscal year 23 budget adjustment for the AOIC modernization grant of $3,286,991.78.
Lewis move.
Lewis moves.
Debbie seconds.
Debbie second, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Ruby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges. Tepi,
Debbie, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. And item E is a resolution approving a budget adjustment for the Village of Big Rock DCEO Grant Administration with the Office of Community Reinvestment. This is from the Development Committee, $23,000.
Leonard moves.
Leonard moves.
Lewis second.
Lewis second, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Ruby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges. Tepi,
Debbie, yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Item F is a resolution authorizing the county to contract with Humana Incorporated to provide the 2024 healthcare continuation coverage for Medicare eligible retired and disabled employees and surviving spouses. And this is from Human Services. Step, Surges moves.
Leonard second.
Leonard second, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Ruby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges. Tepi,
Debbie, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Item G is a resolution authorizing a contract for Kane County wall finishing and painting services for $100,000.
Lewis move.
Lewis moves.
Juby, second.
Judy second, discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Leonard.
In reading that over, it looks like it's 100,000 a year for 2 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
They're just,
I'm so sorry. Am I understanding this one again to be one of those, if we need it, as we need it,
As
here's
needed.
the amount to have this,
Up
yeah.
to,
yeah,
up to
up-
100,000. yeah.
200,000. Need to vote.
Roll call. Juby,
Ruby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges.
Burgess, yes.
Tepi,
Debbie, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. And item H is a resolution authorizing contract for Prison Rape Elimination Act, PREA, resident reporting services for the Juvenile Justice Center, $16,800.
Debbie
Leonard
moves.
Leonard moves.
Lewis a
Debbie.
second.
Lewis second, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Ruby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges.
Yes.
Tepi,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Item I, a resolution authorizing a contract extension for the Kane County carpet replacement, $37,817.23.
Lewis move.
Lewis moves.
Debbie seconds.
Deputy seconds, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Ruby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges.
Burgess, yes.
Tepi,
Debbie, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. And item J is a resolution authorizing contract extension for medical services for the Juvenile Justice Center,
Debbie moves.
$453,806.74. Tepe moves.
Leonard seconds.
Leonard seconds, discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Leonard.
I just wanted to mention in this resolution, there is a increase. I understand that the 12-month consumer price index for hospitals and related services of 3.8%. But this is the first increase we've had from the original contract in 2020. So, I think they're doing a good job, and I think it's well worth the increase that they're requesting. So I'll be voting yes.
Thank you. Comments? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby, Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
And item K is a resolution authorizing a continuation of contract with the Paymentus Corporation. Do we have a motion to approve?
Lewis, second.
Lewis moves. Do you have a second?
Juby, second.
Thank you.
I didn't, sorry.
Slowing down here. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. And L is a resolution authorizing renewal of support services contract for the homeless management information system, $46,332.46.
Lewis, move.
Lewis
Juby,
moves.
second.
I have a second, Juby. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby,
I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. And item M is a resolution authorizing agreement with Hart Intercivic for the upgrade of the King County voting system, hardware, software, and related services and corresponding budget adjustment, $8,805,453.62.
Pepe moves.
Deputy moves.
Lewis, second.
Lewis seconds. Discussion. Mr. Leonard.
Oh, one question, Mr. Chairman. The 8.8 million roughly that we're spending on the new equipment. Number one, I'm all very supportive and all behind this upgrade. I think it's needed. I'm just wondering, I was told that it looks like we're going to be funding this with either COVID and or ARPA money. I just wanted to confirm that.
Pepe here. I
Pepe.
believe that's being looked into. I don't think
I
that
don't-
is totally finalized.
Okay.
But
No, it's for the savings from using ARPA funds to fund payroll over the last few years was deposited into a separate account in the county's books. And the name on that account is called the COVID payroll savings. It's really not COVID money. It's not ARPA money. It's just the savings that were gained by the county because ARPA funds were used to cover some payroll costs. So, but it's been isolated so that we see that we're using these savings.
All right, is that clear?
Yes, that explains it. And then are there enough funds in there to handle this purchase?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Thank you. And then as a follow-up to that, the ARPA committee indicated that they will research this to see if it can be reimbursed by ARPA because this is a critical infrastructure.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy.
Sure.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby,
I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
And item N is a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Kendall County for juvenile detention services.
Pepe moves.
Deputy moves.
Leonard,
Leonard
second.
second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
Item O, a resolution authorizing an amendment to the King County Adult Justice Center's contract for Aramac Correction Service LLC to provide food services at the King County Juvenile Justice Center, $16,425.
Pepe moves.
Deputy moves.
Leonard, second.
Leonard second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
Item P, a resolution authorizing to receive grant funding from grant number 21-203-121, construction of a multi-use facility at the King County Judicial Center campus, $750,000.
Leonard
moves.
moves.
Tepe seconds.
Leonard, Tepe, discussion?
Question, sir, is this a straight grant or a matching?
Mr. Chairman,
Anybody know?
I can answer that.
Yes, Roger?
This is Roger Fonstock from Buildings. This was applied for under Director Chris Allen back when we built the building, and it was for reimbursement for some of the HVAC mechanical systems, and the DCO grant reimbursed based on receipts. This is actually just closing out that grant, receiving it and depositing it. I believe the intent is for it to go back into the general fund capital funds.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. Good question. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Juby,
Ruby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges,
Sturgis, yes.
Pepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
Item Q, authorization, a resolution authorizing funding for the state's attorney collaborative division build-out of the King County Branch Court facility for $486,000.
Tepe moves.
Deputy moves,
Lewis, second.
Lewis second, discussion? Roll call, oh, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Just clarification. I know that they received a grant, the state's attorney received a grant for this. Is this part of that grant, or is it going to be additional funds required from our capital fund?
Oh, this is,
Chairman.
yes, Roger.
This is Roger Fonstock with Buildings again. So the original program budget for this was around $370,000, of which about 256,000 was coming from grants. And there was 150,000 that was coming from the general fund capital to build out the space within the Kane County Branch Court in St. Charles. And with the subsequent bids and some of the work that we had to do to refinish the circuit clerk's front office because they're giving up space, there's a little bit of additional funding. So we had 366,000. I think we're at 480 now to finish it out. And that'll finish a diversion office space for approximately, I think it's 8 offices, 10 people that are going to be in there. And it will be in the branch court on Randall Road in St. Charles.
So that it's approximately, I was trying to do.
About
mental math.
480,000. And
480.
yeah,
46.
And we're going to be reimbursed from a grant. So it's about $200,000
Yes.
out of capital.
yes.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby,
Ruby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Surges,
Sturgis, yes.
Pepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
Item R is an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 6, Division 3 of the King County Code to establish responsible bidder requirements on public works projects.
Tepe moves.
Deputy moves,
Lewis, second.
Lewis second, discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Leonard.
I read over the resolution. I am in agreement with 95% of it. However, item J of that resolution wants evidence of participation in apprenticeship training programs applicable to the work being performed. The problem is this is going to reduce the number of people that can bid on it that may be qualified in every other area, but can either not afford to send their people to apprenticeship training or can't afford the time off because they're small to go to it. So I am opposed to the resolution because of item J. And I'd like to know if we could consider possibly redoing that where they don't have to, it's not mandatory, but preferred.
Yes, Mr. Sturgis.
Sturgis, Bill, I concur with you 100% and will not be supportive of this because of that.
Could you go to that? Blair, could you go to the next page so we could actually see what
Page
you're talking about?
245.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Thank you.
That's right.
So if, could I,
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Blair.
little bit higher? Right. Okay, there is. So, as we know, that if you are working on a public project and you get awarded the bid, you have to be paid prevailing wage by state law. And with that comes the opportunity to have your staff, the people who work for your organization, go to an apprenticeship training program, and that is paid as part of that prevailing wage. So it does not impact at all, in my understanding of this, it does not impact at all the ability for an individual to go to an apprenticeship program. Now, that apprenticeship program can be unions obviously have that, but also there are apprenticeship programs for depending upon what the skill set is at our public colleges or junior colleges also have that. And some of our associations also have training programs. And what this allows is to make sure that the workforce from that company is not only trained effectively because it is our public money. And we want to make sure that it is spent wisely and with good work. We all respect that even individually in our homes, that there is a warranty and a guarantee to it. But also the latest technology is presented to them as things change. So that's what the apprenticeship program is about.
Mr. Deputy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to point out in item A that this specifically applies to projects that are in excess of $100,000. So we're not excluding, smaller organizations from bidding on right-sized products and, in my opinion, putting undue pressure on them to have an apprenticeship or to participate in an apprenticeship program. So I think this is limited to larger projects, and that's why I'll be voting for this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I respect what Madam Chair said and what Mr. Tepe said. I still feel that there is a prejudice against a smaller firm who may not be able to afford. There are really two costs involved here. One is the cost of having your person go to training. And, that is really a major consideration for small firms. And secondly, it's the actual cost, whether you go to a junior college or whatever. I don't think any of these apprenticeship programs are free. So there is some cost involved. The prevailing wage is going to be paid no matter what, but then the additional cost of the apprenticeship training will come out of that. So in essence, it does reduce the prevailing wage that they're being paid by the cost of the apprenticeship. So once again, I'll be voting no on it. Outside of that one item on the resolution, I'm in full agreement on it, but because of that one, I'll be voting no.
Ms. Lewis.
We discussed this in Jobs Committee also. And one of the things that I think is great about having this clause in here is it allows these companies or these employers, these corporations, whatever, to bring in people that are at a lesser skill level, knowing that they're going to put them through the apprentices training and get them more skills. So it's actually making our whole workforce more valuable by putting this in here. So I'm absolutely voting yes on it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Ms. Lewis, could she give me a specific example of how this will improve their ability through
Sure.
apprenticeship training?
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, like, I'm just take this project in DeKalb where they're doing all this, they're hiring 1,000 people to work at this big meta center. And if they have to go out and look for, contractors that are fully skilled and have experience and all those qualifications, their pool is not very large to draw from. But if they bring in people and they say, we're going to put you, maybe you don't have skills or minimal skills in construction, but we are going to have an apprenticeship program we're put through there, then by the time these people are through their apprenticeship program, they're going to have the skills needed. And they're also going to then become, full-fledged, in this case, carpenters or electricians. So I've seen a lot of that going on up there. And, we do have a lot of lack of current skills because the jobs keep changing so much. So I think apprenticeships and pretty much everything are so important. Does that make sense?
I understand your response. I appreciate it very much.
All right. Did we?
Frank, SAO.
Two quick things. I just want to make sure everyone kind of understands it fully. If we could go back to section A, the $100,000 is not for all projects. It's only related to water resources. So anything that's 30,000 or more this would apply to. So the 100,000 threshold was a specific issue that came up related to Jody Wolnick's department. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. Second issue is on the apprenticeship thing. If that is an ongoing concern that you have, I believe County Board Member Ford had brought this up previously. I'll make the same offer to anybody else. If you would like to see proposed language changes, please reach out to me. Let me know what you're looking for. We can help facilitate that. We are doing that for County Board Member Ford, and we'll have language proposal for the county board to consider up or down. But it is an offer I make to anybody. If you want to see language changes, our office can help make those for you.
And before we make those changes, and anyone accepts those changes, I want this committee to understand that this was done intensely and collaboratively with all affected departments and workforce as well. So this was not, and as legal. So this was not a document that was put together quickly. It was put together over a period of several months with several meetings, many meetings going consistently through, and complete buy-in by all departments affected, as well as outside agencies, as well as legal. So any change that would come would necessarily have to go to the same process to be analyzed by all parties, and not, I understand that the board has the authority to do this, but there is a sensitivity to this that we have to make sure that it works collaboratively with our communities, with our workforce, as well as with the board and our departments.
My comments are that, it may, apprenticeship program may cost cost them something, but it guarantees or closer guarantees that we have the proper education and instruction for the individual doing our work. And I think it's in our best interest to have the best people being doing our work, those that we can count on and those that are going to do it accurately. Mr. Leonard.
Excellent point you make there, Mr. Chairman. 2 points I'd like to make is, I think Mr. Tepe, as he had mentioned, that this was just on $100,000 job and over. That is just for the water resource area. So all the smaller jobs would also fall into this. So I question that. The other thing is, with respect to anyone that is hired to do one of these jobs, they have to be fully insured. And under the insurance, under products and completed operations, they're fully covered if they don't do it properly. So the job would get done properly if for whatever reason it wasn't, whether they went through the apprenticeship program or not. So that's just the only point I wanted to make.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman Ford?
Mr. Ford? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I appreciate all the comments that have been made. The thing about it is that we have to look at this from a point of view of our smaller contractors. And also we got to understand that their process of living is totally different than what it is with bigger organizations. I'd be interested in seeing that. I've heard that outside sources has been used to help put this together. But if we didn't bring in small businesses from a variety of places to be involved in this, then we just make an assumption on how they function. A lot of equivalent to, some equivalent to ought to be used in some of this language. And I do appreciate that hopefully before our next meeting that some of this gets put together so we can have it presented, because we got to look at this. We always talk about how our, especially King County, is made out of minority businesses. And without having that input, then we're not respecting what we say we have pride about when it comes to our small businesses and minority businesses. So our country, King County, is built on mom and pop businesses. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah,
Madam
yes.
Chair, oh,
and that'll be my last, I'll have my last comment. 2 points. Many of the contractors who would be offered an opportunity to have be subs, not the general contractor, but the subs are indeed small businesses, and they are indeed mom and pop businesses who have apprenticeship programs. Oftentimes they're family business. Father leads to a son, son goes to his son, et cetera. So these are inherently, many of them are small businesses who do support this program. The other thing was brought up that perhaps apprenticeships are not available to our young people because of lack of skill set. Currently, right now, there are programs throughout Kane County that are being offered, completely funded and paid for, and including with salary stipends for pre-apprenticeship programs for our high school students. The latest one that I received information from is from Habitat for Humanity, who's teaching construction skill sets in the city of Aurora. So this is something with the pre-apprenticeship program to bring people, trained individuals, young people, into a program where they could take the difficulty of an apprenticeship program. This includes technology, use of computers and math skills, and also safe use of equipment, which Mr. Ford believes is very important, how to hammer properly, how to use a saw. This is all, but the technical information in there as well, because we know going forward that computer technology is going to be a critical part of any construction project. It's not, should it be? It's and is, especially for our larger projects, and being able to have that skilled workforce here in Kane County, with all respect to our small businesses, which Mr. Ford, I'm a small business owner. I do respect that. I support that. It is the heartbeat of Kane County, but we want to make sure that our public money is spent appropriately.
Mr. Sturgis?
Was this birthed here, or was there a subcommittee that brought this up to us?
This is administration.
Came from admin?
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Trivia, aye.
Lewis, yes.
Surges,
No.
Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, no.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes with 2 noes, 4 yeses.
Thank you. That concludes our new business. I have no old business. Does anybody have any old business? Motion to have our reports placed on file.
Mr. Chair, may I ask for unanimous consent to place reports on file?
Is any that? Right, it will be on file by unanimous consent. I have no comments. Is there a need for an executive session? I am not.
Yeah.
There is.
Oh, gee.
Close minutes.
For what reason?
Mr. Chair, I move we go
we have
into
a-
executive session to review executive session minutes.
Do we have a second to that?
Yes, I'll second.
Lewis seconds. All those, roll call, please.
Lewis,
Yes.
Surges,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
First question, Mr. Sheppel, are you joining us in closed session? All right, well, I'm waiting for his answer. Everyone else, please accept those invites to go into the closed session. Be aware that anything you say up until the time I give you okay will be still going out live. On
Can you hear me
YouTube.
now?
Yes, I can hear you. Mr. Sheppel, are you joining us?
Yes.
Sadly.
Okay. So please accept those invites. I'll let you know when we're successfully in the closed session.
Should made this any smaller print.
Mention your.
This was bigger. I will
Company.
revise that.
And Northwestern right
No.
Not good.
Yeah.
So- Oh. I knew mine were bad. I didn't know they were this bad.
Company, which currently is the third.
So I guess our storm wasn't that bad, huh?
No, kind of short-lived.
Yeah.
All right, you are in open session.
We are now in open session.
Roll call.
We have a roll call.
Juby. Lewis.
Who's here?
Sanchez. Surges.
Here.
Pepe.
Deputy here.
Leonard.
Leonard here.
Berman.
Berman's here.
Berman.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Alan.
Yes, Ms. Allen.
Sometimes when we're in closed session, we're asked to identify ourselves if we're not on the committee. And I just wanted to say that I was in on the closed session. This is Alan. Thank you.
I do have you.
Thank you. Sometimes we overlook things.
I'd like to forget that.
Do we have a motion, on release of our closed session minutes?
Leonard so moves.
Surges seconds.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby.
GBI.
Lewis.
Yes, yes.
Surges.
Yes.
Pepe.
Deputy, yes.
Leonard.
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Approved.
Okay. No public comments on non-agenda items. I think our next item is adjournment.
Hey, Dale, wait a minute. Mrs. State's Attorney, Miss State's. When we do this, why do they have to sit all the way through our entire meeting? Can't we just do this up front and let her go back to her job?
Well, I don't set the agenda, but.
I mean, could we, I mean.
Actually, you do set the agenda.
Yes, you're right. You're right. You're right. I'm sorry.
Shazam.
I mean, I feel like we just wasted more than half of her morning for a 30-second thing. And again, if we can
Well,
just,
it's
I know.
session.
Just one quick thing, Frank from SAO. We would always support a moving it to the front before new and old business, but after public comment, because one of the things we've noticed is when there's a lot of people here,
Yeah.
you get them in and then you basically have to boot them. So if you guys want to, we would support moving it to after public comment. But otherwise, we're perfectly fine. It's not the biggest, besides it's, jokingly, this is, new person, so they get the fun job of sticking around, and the upside is they get to meet all of you. So that's the good
For you
thing.
guys by the hour, that's just silly.
No, they're, I already asked that, Cliff. They're, no, we're not paying them any extra for being here or being there. They're just not doing anything else.
They enjoy our company.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure they do.
Can you shorten my time here?
Mr. Chair, I move for adjournment.
I second.